If Ichigo Kurosaki had a full arc dedicated to developing his Quincy powers, it would redefine his identity, reshape the final battles of Bleach, and give closure to long-standing elements in his bloodline and the story's lore. To envision this, we begin by rewriting the timeline shortly after Ichigo discovers the truth about his mother, Masaki Kurosaki, being a pure-blood Quincy. This knowledge doesn't just haunt him, it opens a path he's never dared to walk. After returning from the royal realm and receiving his reforged Zanpakuto, Ichigo begins noticing strange shifts in his Reiryoku. The blue threads of spirit particles respond more intensely to his presence. At first, he thinks it's just the effect of his new blade, but when he begins absorbing reishi from the air unconsciously, Urahara takes notice. Urahara informs him that Quincy powers are awakening naturally due to the stress of recent events, his spiritual hybrid nature, and the latent bloodline from his mother now fully surfacing. But Ichigo doesn't know how to control it, and this uncontrolled power could tear him apart from the inside if left undeveloped. Uryu, already distant due to his alliance with Yhwach, refuses to speak to Ichigo. Left with no other source of guidance, Ichigo turns to the last person he wants help from, Ruken Ishida. Cold and clinical, Ruken agrees to train Ichigo not for sentiment, but for survival. He makes it clear Yhwach sees Ichigo as a tool or a threat. If Ichigo doesn't master his Quincy heritage, he'll die. Training begins in the underground chambers of Karakura Hospital, a sterile zone lined with Quincy relics, ancient diagrams of the Seireitai structure, and remnants of Ishida family pride. Ruken begins by teaching Ichigo about reishi manipulation, how Quincy's draw spirit particles, refine them into weapons, and maintain structure through willpower. Ichigo struggles. He's used to brute force, Zangetsu's power, hollow instincts, and raw resolve. But Quincy energy is precise, mathematical, elegant. Ichigo's first attempts to form a bow fail miserably. Worse, his hollow side resents the intrusion. His inner world begins destabilizing. Hollow Ichigo lashes out, furious that another element is trying to dominate their balance. Ichigo enters his inner world and confronts both his hollow and Zangetsu, the embodiment of his old powers. And a new third figure appears, a spectral version of Masaki Kurosaki. Masaki's apparition speaks calmly but firmly. She tells Ichigo that his soul is not a battlefield. It's a harmony waiting to happen. Each part of him is connected. Instead of suppressing the others to favor Quincy energy, Ichigo must learn how to unify them without erasure. Inspired, Ichigo returns to training with a new mindset. He begins to reform the reishi around him, not as a bow, but into a blade. Ruken is skeptical. Quincy don't forge swords. But Ichigo's weapon is different, a hybrid spirit sword forged from Quincy principles and hollow aggression, a spiritual broadsword that vibrates with condensed reishi. As training continues, Ichigo learns to use techniques such as Heirenkyaku, Heilig Pfeil, and even Blood Venom. He practices using reishi barriers and studies the shrift system, realizing that he never received a traditional letter or ability. However, his evolving nature grants him a unique passive trait. He can harmonize conflicting spiritual energies. Reishi that would normally clash, Hollow and Quincy, for example, stabilize around him. It's not flashy, but it's a power of balance, essential for later. Meanwhile, the Wandenreich detect Ichigo's spiritual signature shifting. Yhwach sends emissaries, Lil Tato and Baz B, not to kill, but to observe and possibly recruit. They find Ichigo during training and deliver Yhwach's message. You were born for this. You are mine. Come to the Silburn. Ruken forbids it, but Ichigo, craving answers about Masaki's death and the Quincy War, secretly agrees to visit the Silburn, not as a soldier, but as a spy. Inside the Silburn, Ichigo is shown the grandeur of the Quincy Empire. Haschwald welcomes him with false grace. He introduces Ichigo to Quincy history, long erased by the Soul Society, revealing the ancient betrayal of the Quincy by the Shinigami. Ichigo is shown the Book of the Reishi, containing secrets on spirit particle theory, and told that his mother was once destined to become a queen among Quincy's. He meets Uryu again. Their reunion is cold and charged with tension. Uryu, feeling Ichigo has rejected Quincy pride for too long, lectures him on history and responsibility. But Ichigo accuses Uryu of cowardice, of joining Yhwach to avoid conflict, not out of loyalty. Their clash is emotional, but ends with reluctant understanding. Uryu agrees to teach Ichigo about Shrift lore. Ichigo's hybrid nature causes a Shrift to emerge on its own. Unifier. Unlike other letters, this Shrift doesn't provide a direct attack or defense. Instead, it amplifies Ichigo's ability to maintain harmony between conflicting powers. Hollow, Shinigami, and Quincy energy can coexist in his body without backlash. This Shrift becomes the core of his identity. With this, Ichigo begins to develop a new form. No longer torn between three powers, he designs a spiritual form that integrates all of them. Black Shihakusho laced with blue reishi threads. Hollow mask patterns fused with the Quincy cross. Twin blades, one white and light as air, the other black and dense like gravity. His Reiatsu burns gold at the edges, a visual blend of sun and void. Yhwach, observing Ichigo's evolution, prepares to claim him. Haschwalth proposes elevating Ichigo to the Schutzstaffel, but Ichigo, now aware of the pain Yhwach has inflicted, openly refuses. Yhwach tries to use the Almighty to control him, but the U-Shrift resists the prediction paths. It blurs timelines, disrupts energy alignments, and defies causal dominion. This is Ichigo's greatest trait, unpredictability born of balance. Realizing Ichigo is a threat, not an asset, Yhwach commands its execution. Haschwald, Bazbi, and Asken Naklavar ambush him. The battle is brutal. Ichigo's Reishi sword is broken, his blood vein is cracked, but he fights strategically, absorbing enemy Reishi mid-battle, redirecting attacks, shifting forms to confuse predictive abilities. Just as he's about to fall, Ruken and Uryu arrive. They reveal a forbidden Quincy technique, the Heiligadrei, a tri-bloodline symphony of Reishi output. Ruken sacrifices himself to activate it, transferring his life force into Ichigo. The energy spike allows Ichigo to enter a transcendental form. Shin Kurisugendo, Getsuga, True Crescendo, Moonfang, a perfected fusion of his abilities. Final Getsuga-like energy output. Blood vein armor patterns glowing like runes, hollow mask reforming over one side. A Quincy cross suspended over his heart, rotating like a gyroscope. Ichigo teleports to the battlefield. The Soul Society is under siege. The Royal Guard are scattered. Yhwach prepares to absorb the Soul King. But Ichigo arrives, not as a savior, but as a living contradiction, the flaw in Yhwach's vision of order. They clash. Almighty meets Unifier. Reishi storms the sky. Ichigo lands a critical blow, but not through force, through disruption. His Shrift cancels Yhwach's future sight momentarily, creating a vulnerability. With a final Getsureishi Gekka, Ichigo tears Yhwach's spirit apart. After the war, Soul Society lies in ruin. Captains are wounded or fallen, and the balance between realms is fractured. Ichigo works with Urahara and Mayuri to help repair the boundaries between worlds. But his presence, fused with Quincy, Shinigami, and Hollow, creates instability in the Reishi layers. It becomes clear that Ichigo is more than a fighter. He is a bridge, a stabilizer. Over time, Serite begins to view him not as an outsider, but as a necessary anomaly, one that prevents spiritual collapse. Uryu, inheriting Ruken's will, takes command of the remaining Quincy. He forms the Concord of Light, a council devoted to preserving Quincy culture without the violence or vengeance that once defined it. Their first act is to build a shrine for Masaki and Ryuken, sanctified ground where old grudges are left behind. Ichigo returns briefly to Karakura town, but doesn't stay. He visits his friends, Orihime, Chad, and Ishida, but something in him has changed. He senses spiritual turbulence across realms. Hollows are behaving erratically. Certain districts of the Rukongai are becoming unstable, and the Dangai is leaking temporal energy. Ichigo takes it upon himself to travel. From Hueco Mundo to the world of the living, he seeks out cracks in the spiritual world and mends them. In each place, he encounters echoes of the war. An Arrancar child born with Quincy abilities, a soul reaper who lost control due to hollowification, Quincy survivors exiled and abandoned. Ichigo helps them, not with brute force, but by teaching balance. His lessons aren't about fighting, they're about accepting one's nature, no matter how paradoxical. During his journey, Ichigo is challenged by ancient forces awakened by the Quincy War. Forgotten gods of reishi manipulation and hollow royalty rise to fill Yhwach's void. Ichigo faces each with patience and resilience. With every fight, he refines his harmony, proving that true strength lies not in dominance, but in understanding. Years pass. The Gotei 13 is rebuilt. Ichigo declines a captain position, but becomes an honorary guardian of the realms. Children learn his name not as the substitute Shinigami, but as the unifier. His legend spreads across the Soul Society, Hueco Mundo, and the human world, not just for his power, but for his compassion. The arc ends with Ichigo standing alone beneath the sakura trees of the Seirete. Urahara appears beside him, smiling faintly. "So, Kurosaki, do you finally understand what it means to be whole?" Ichigo nods. "It means knowing who you are and choosing who you want to be." And that's what would have happened if Ichigo had a full Quincy arc.